Welcome back to the FlairBar.com show. We're with an old friend of Flair Mixology, just drinking in general. Great party guy, Mr. Jeff Rodgers. Jeff, how you doing?
Fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, always great seeing you. We go back some years.
We do.
From the Flair days to the drinking days to, I don't want to call it out, but chasing the women days.
Yeah, somebody called that a hot minute.
Yeah, exactly. But what are you doing now?
Right now I'm currently the mixologist for Southern Wine Spirits out of Minnesota. Minnesota is my entire territory. So I am the education department. I teach about bar efficiency, cocktails, spirits in general, and overall training when it comes to a bar staff.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you started off your Flair career back with the TGI Fridays days.
Yep,
And you
I was a
actually
striper.
did pretty well with TGI Fridays. Like, tell us about that.
1999, I finished third in the world out of 6,500 bartenders, which was my first opening, if you will, to the Flair world. I know that Flair competitions beyond that, and obviously you and I competed quite a bit.
I never took third in the world, though.
Well, yeah, third in the world from a Friday standpoint. Obviously, when you get into what we did internationally wise, when you get into some of the big dogs that we got to play with. But this was an all-encompassing bartender competition. That's what I really loved about it. And a lot of competitions after that have been great. But it tested your speed, it tested your cleanliness, it tested hospitality, your knowledge of current events. I mean, kind of the whole kit and caboodle. So I was very proud of that, and it gave me the basis for what I do today, hands down.
Now let's take it to Flair bartending then to Flair bartending now. Is there a difference? What are your thoughts on it?
So there was kind of like a hill and a valley there of sorts. At the beginning when I was first doing it, there was kind of rudimentary, and I don't mean to use that word rudely, if you will, but it was very simple. It wasn't necessarily routines, it was a combination of moves, if you will, and then slowly but surely it kind of ramped up to a large facility of actions and motions. But when it really comes down to it, Flair is just the ability, and I don't remember the exact definition in the dictionary, but it's something to do with a crazy ability for something that you do, a love and passion that comes out of that. And so you see people now that have huge Flair routines. That is amazing when it comes to competition or Flair bars or whatever it may be. But now you see the opposite end, which is craft cocktail bars, where you see people stirring with two things at once, or they're shaking the Japanese hard shake or whatever it may be. And everybody always thinks that Flair is bottle flipping. Flair is not bottle flipping in my eyes. Flair is the way that you conduct yourself behind the bar with a air about yourself that looks like a dance almost. So I want to kind of, I've kind of put it upon my own shoulders to a certain extent to squash that whole ability when it comes to bottle flipping. Because yes, I love bottle flipping like nobody's business, but that's not the negativity that needs to be out there.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%. And it's we had a talk earlier. And it's great seeing the Flair bartenders of yesteryear, Robbie Flair, myself, you, Tobin Ellis, Brian Lukmas, Phil Raimondo, Bobby G, like all them stepping up and really embracing the craft part of it now.
Absolutely.
And showcasing both disciplines to make it almost like the professional bartender.
Yeah.
And not only that, but now you're starting to see the craft bartenders, or mixologists, if you will, but they're really starting to appreciate the Flair. And like you said, the two stirs are just a nice shake. And it's really kind of just melding into one bigger family now.
It really is. A lot of people, and one of the greatest things that has told me when it comes to running a bar or whatever it may be, that you can have great cocktails, you can have great Flair about you whatsoever, or bottle flipping, or the entertainment aspect, or big TVs, or whatever it may be. But if you don't treat people like gold, they're never coming back, no matter how great your cocktails are. And that's what I like to push when it comes to that. So this Flair aspect, as we're talking again, of treating every person like gold. So when they're sitting at your bar, there's a comfortableness about sitting there. And I was told a long time ago that a great bar looks like a dance from afar. If you were to sit back, you could almost put it to music, and you see people going within and out of each other, and there's taps on the shoulders, and there's this, but they're not bumping into each other, and that's what I love to see and love to preach, hands down.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion...
What were the other things? Those weren't questions?
No, those are just thoughts. In your opinion, what makes a great cocktail?
It's a lot of things. It's absolutely a lot of things. Number one, starting with great ingredients. I think it's huge with great ingredients. A lot of people talk about now you have your really expensive stuff, your really old stuff. I love premium spirits, and what I mean by premium spirits is juice in the bottle. It doesn't matter if it's $8 or $150 or if it's 900 years old or 3 minutes old. If it's good juice, it's good juice. Premium spirits. So you always got to start there. Number two is try to use as fresh local ingredients as much as possible, much like getting your chef involved or your kitchen involved. But when it comes down to it, it has to be balanced. It has to be. But you have to listen to your guests. And And I always like to tell people when they're bartending, you'll hear a bartender say, "Oh God, I made a mojito for that person. Now they gave it back to me because it's too sweet." Well, you could have avoided all that by just a couple of simple conversations prior to that, so that you kind of what I like to call the four-post theory. If you have any ingredients, and this is based on a 4-ingredient cocktail, so if you have 4 posts, everything within there can be that cocktail, if you will. But you can lean it towards strong, you can lean it towards sweet, you can lean it towards bitter, you can lean it towards sour. But you have to know what your guest wants. I can make a mojito sweet, I can make a mojito strong. If you listen to them, then all of a sudden people think that you made a tailor-made cocktail for them, and they feel like gold.
I agree 100%. I first learned that from Dean Cernios, who learned that from, I want to say Philip Duff, if I'm not mistaken, the Taste Access Grid. We all just have different names of it.
It's true.
And it's one of the easiest questions I ask when a guest comes to the bar when they want something different. What do you want, something stronger, weaker, or sweet or sour?
But that we can't take away from balance, though. And Bobby G had mentioned this earlier, that you can lean something towards strong or sweet, but every ingredient in a cocktail needs to be tasted, if you will. You can't just taste rum in a daiquiri or whatever. You need to be able to taste that lime. You need to be able to taste that sugar. But you can lean them towards one way or the other. But balance, balance, balance.
And I agree with you 100%. Balance is the key to any great cocktail. Let me ask you this. We kind of touched about it earlier, but I want to get more into it. You were a great Flair bartender. And I'll be the first to say, great Flair bartender. And
it's the second person in the world besides my mother that's ever said that.
You're really passionate about Flair. Then obviously see where you're at now. How did that transition come about from you really practicing and giving all your to Flair bartending to actually giving a shit about cocktails and getting that cocktail scene? How was that transition, and what sparked you to do that?
I can absolutely pinpoint it to a gentleman named Josh Harris, who works with the Bon Vivants, and I am very proud to know him. And he told me something about 4 years ago that simply said, when it comes to food and beverage, it's about breaking bread, period. And that hit me so hard when it came to cocktails as a whole. And when I started changing my mentality to that, everywhere I go now, whether I drink something local or you talk to the bartenders or whatever it may be, it's always that 30 seconds to a minute and a half conversation with somebody you would have never had a conversation with in a million years. Doesn't matter about their background, doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter what their job is or how much money they have in their pocket. There's that 5 minutes there with a shot of whiskey or a beer or whatever it may be, and you get to hear stories from somebody. And I am infatuated with hearing people's stories.
That's why we're at the bar. We heard stories.
It is.
We get feedback back, and we're like,
I love it, and I'm very introverted. So when it comes to that,
I was like, well, behind the bar, I'm a rock star.
No, I'm just a very extroverted person, so I just love meeting people, and I love seeing things. And when you get to a place, I get the fortunate ability now to go to a lot of distilleries. And when you see the people around those distilleries that are putting their heart and soul, whether it be the grain that's coming or the distillation itself or the barreling or whatever it may be, you get to meet those people. It blows my mind of what the alcohol world and food world brings together when it comes down to it.
And one last question. If you had to look in the camera there and you're talking to that die-hard mixologist who just has a stigma of Flair, what would you say to him?
Wow, I feel like that could be a 25-minute conversation right there. But I would say just embrace it. Embrace what you can do. Know that your guests want to have just as much fun as you do. And just because you don't necessarily think that Flair is just bottle flipping, you're doing Flair more than you could ever possibly think.
Well said.
That's it.
Jeff, we're going to take a break, but when we
pleasure.
come back, do you mind maybe showing us a little Flair and some cocktail making as well?
I can do that for sure.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
We'll be back right after this.